Reunion. That's the nothing personal word of the day. Reunion. It is Monday, August 4th, 2025. And as I sit here in Meadowlark Studios in Miami, Florida at the Great Elser, it is hard not to start the show talking about the hometown Miami Marlins, their sweep of the Yankees this weekend in front of 3 sold-out crowds at Marlins Park. Over 100,000 people got to enjoy dominance, the likes of which aren't often seen. 2 special things happened this weekend, one special for all of you, one special just for me. The one special for all of you is that the World Series winning manager of the 2003 team, Jack McKeon, got inducted into the Marlins Hall of Fame, a Hall of Fame that didn't exist before this year and started with an inaugural class of Jeff Conine, Jimmy Leland, the manager of the 1997 World Series team, Jack McKeon, and Luis Castillo, who will be put into the Hall of Fame on August 24th at Lone Depot Park. When I found out that I had an opportunity to go to the game, when Jeff Conine called and said, "Hey, are you going to the game?" And I said, hadn't thought about it. My invitation must have gotten lost in the mail. But I said to Conine, of course, I want to be there for Jack. Jack is 94 years old. You have to take opportunities to celebrate those who live, because what you do when people are alive is far more important than what you do when they're dead. No matter what game of would you or would you not go to their funeral do you play, you try to do things for people when they're alive. So I called Jack, and I said, "Jack, it's Sparky. Sparky, you coming to Miami?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Thank you, Sparky." He wanted to be surrounded by as many of his loved ones, as many of the people who were part of what he calls the best time in his career. The backstory, as you know, is he had not been back very often. After the team was sold and Derek Jeter had taken over, McKeon had made it clear that he would not come to Marlins Park unless Jeter was no longer with the team. Once Jeter had been let go, then they contacted McKeon, started this Hall of Fame, and there we were, surrounded by players from our 2003 team. Before the ceremony, we did a group text. We were talking with Mike Lowell, with Dontrell Willis, Carl Pavano, Josh Beckett, talking about Juan Pierre, talking about the team, Mike Hill, talking about the team, Larry Beinfest, talking about the team and what it meant, what it did, how unlikely it is for a team that had just started in 1993 to win a second World Series in its first 11 seasons. Talk about the reality of what it is to build a team, taking what you have been given by the great Dave Dombrowski when we started in 2002, and then added a ton of players to a core of players, whether it's bringing in Pudge or Juan Pierre or Jeff Conine, or the pitching, Dontrell Willis, Ugueth Urbina, the closer. The list goes on, and then winning, firing your manager mid-season, and then winning. All of the different things that happen, and they come flooding back to you. The second part of the day, though, is that I had not been back to a baseball game at Marlins Park since I walked out that October day in 2017 after the transaction had completed, after Derek Jeter and his group had funded the transaction. I walked out of Marlins Park, Derek Jeter walked in, and that was it. Hadn't seen Derek Jeter until the Hall of Fame just last weekend. Hadn't been back to Marlins Park at all, not once. I had amazing anxiety about it. The feeling of, it's like going back to visit your old house after you moved out and walking into your old room and seeing that someone else is in the room, whether it's a girl and you were a boy, or it's another boy who has a different idea of whether it should be Farrah Fawcett on the wall or the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, or maybe it should just be a Mack truck or a Tonka toy. Anytime you were a part of something and then you're not, there's feelings. And as robotic as you may think I am, the anticipatory anxiety that I had going back to Marlins Park was significant. And I approached it from the south side, coming from the Elser Hotel. Thank you, Elser, for having me. And I was looking at the ballpark, and I had this feeling that no matter what I do or say, life's always going to go on. And I felt this when I was running the team, and I would say it publicly. But deep down inside me, I had this view of self-importance, this view of the moment. I'm the president of a team right now, no matter what's happening, whether people hate me or love me, whether we're winning or losing, whether there's 10,000 people or we're winning a World Series. The idea of being defined by your job and that level of importance and then having it gone, it's a significant psychological thing to deal with that everybody deals with when they leave baseball, and frankly, everybody deals with when you leave whatever job that you've done for a long period of time. We all would feel the same way. So it was extremely bizarre to walk up to Marlins Park and realize that I had to find my ticket in my Apple Wallet, to realize that while a security guard recognized me, that was not entrance into the ballpark, which is how it always was. And this is going to sound like, wow, these are such first world problems. These are not relatable at all. I'm talking about any time you go back to any place you've been. Anytime. It doesn't matter that it's a baseball ballpark or an old office building or an old house. It doesn't matter. It's the same emotion either way. I walked into the ballpark and I was struck at the feeling of normal that I felt and the feeling that I had to get over. And I said to myself, you've got 5 minutes to wallow in the fact that you are simply a spectator now. Because take that 5 minutes, and I want you to wallow in it, and I did. And I tried. I was very impatient. I said, I want to get down to the field. I want to go see Stanton. I want to go to the clubhouse. I want to do everything. I want to go to the press room, get ice cream. I want to do all the things. I want to go to my office. 5 minutes I gave myself, folks. It was a bad 5 minutes. And the people I was around had to have noticed it because I was antsy. I was walking around and trying to take photos and trying, even stopped by people for photos, or when people said hello, it was almost embarrassing where when I was president of the Marlins and people want a picture, wanted to do something, you're happy, hey, have a great time, enjoy anything I can do for you. I realized I can't do anything for anyone anymore. I can't get you a free ice cream. I can't bring you on the field and meet a player, bring you outside the clubhouse, get you a signed ball. If you're a kid, if you have a kid who's crying, go to the medical part of the building. If someone's hurt, bring him down, let him meet a player. Nothing. Zero control. 5 minutes I took. I timed it. How do I know that I timed it? Because in my head I said, take 5 minutes to feel as selfish and as bad as you feel right now, and as self-important as you feel right now. And then I stopped. And from that moment on, spending time with Luis Castillo and Conine and Michael Tejera and Al Fonseca and Jack and his beautiful wife Carol and their son and family, seeing old employees who were still there, and the hugs and the laughing. After 5 minutes, it all was good. I walked around the ballpark as a fan. I walked around looking at the changes they made. Loved some, criticized some. Couldn't believe they got rid of the fish tanks. Missed those. The home run sculpture. Miss it. But I was merely a caretaker for 16 seasons. Longest serving team president in Marlins history so far. And I'll tell you, the time passed. Caroline O'Connor could not have been more gracious. Now that Jeter is gone, a totally different attitude around the Marlins. It's like there's a relief for the employees now that they've got a great president of baseball operations in Peter Bendex and fantastic employees who are doing well. Marketing, branding, a chief brand officer, the branding around the building, just everything about this team and that ballpark made me proud yesterday. And that's before Stowers hits a 3-run home run, and I realize that he may be amongst the best left-handed hitters in franchise history. That's before you're looking at Cabrera shoving it 6 innings against the Yankees after giving up a leadoff home run and realizing this may be exactly the type of team that can make some noise and add to the World Series, because I also want more World Series for the Marlins. One of the great misunderstandings, Coca, one of the great ones, is that I root against the Marlins. You're totally wrong. Selfishly, the more World Series that the organization wins, the better organization it is, and I'm a part of that history. I'm a part of that legacy, part of the list. Right now, 97, 03, and then imagine, how about 97, 03, 26, 29? All of a sudden, you're talking about a hugely successful team. So I spend time talking to people. I did walk around, Coca. Nobody was upset. Nobody was angry. Everyone couldn't have been lovelier. The whole keyboard courage thing is real. Couldn't have been lovelier. People were asking for you, Coca. You with Coca? No, Coca is otherwise occupied. We are associated whether you like it or not, Coca. People like nothing personal. People were talking about how good their Marlins team is. By the end of the game, as the Marlins were finishing up the sweep, I could not believe the similarities in the teams that I was watching. And I couldn't believe some of the parts about the Marlins organization. Number one, they're the first team now to reach 500 after being 16 games under since the Tampa Bay Rays did it in 2014. That's over 10 years ago. That's no coincidence. The Marlins want to be the Rays. Who wouldn't? A payroll you can afford and a team that wins consistently year after year after year. That's a good organization to emulate. The 2006 Marlins were one of the teams who were 16 under and made it back to 500 before finishing, I believe, Coke in 06. Girardi won Manager of the Year. Then we canned him, but he won Manager of the Year. That's not going to happen to McCall if he wins Manager of the Year. Believe me, he's not going anywhere. I think we finished 79 and 83 that year, Coca, which was unreal given the fact that we were expected to lose 100 games. 78 and 84 in 2006. Not too shabby. The other impact of yesterday, as I was watching the Yankees and their history and watching the fans, I must tell you, there is nothing better for me. And this is when, after the 5 minutes of wallowing, I could take advantage of, A, the run that I had had, and just enjoy walking around the ballpark and seeing people and just feeling happy. I'd forgotten how much joy I had in having Yankee fans cheer for the Marlins. I'd forgotten because it's good. People come in their Yankee uniforms, which I used to in my younger days. I'd be despondent. You're coming to a Marlins game, cheering for the other team. That's such a Miami thing, and I'd heard from the Dolphins people, yeah, when we play the Jets, we don't know whether we're in New York or whether we're in Miami. I've seen it. The visiting teams drive the attendance in the Florida market. But what I always love to do and talk to the players about, let's get them. Let's do this. Let's convert one fan at a time, one child of a father Yankee fan. Let's do something. Wouldn't you know it, Stowers hits the home run, and you see Yankee fans cheering. Until you go to New York, and you've got Yankee fans in a Yankee jersey. When the opposing team does something, they're not cheering. Or when you've got Yankee fans going to a game on the road trip in Baltimore, when the Orioles do something, the Yankee fans aren't cheering. But there's something about Miami. The transient nature of the population, maybe just the history of the Yankees and Marlins, whatever the case is, maybe people secretly wanting to love our team. But there were a lot of Yankee fans cheering when they realized that the Yankee team, the Marlins may be a better team. And I got news for you. 1-26, there are exceptions. Stanton, to me, is the best player on either team, truly, and that's not personal bias. The best bat on either team. A Hall of Fame bat. But, man, there were a lot of Yankee fans cheering for the Marlins. Do you know someone sent me a statistical nugget, Coca, that the New York Yankees had been swept by the Marlins for the first time in Marlins history. The Marlins had never swept the Yankees before. And do you know the New York Yankees? This one will blow your mind. We have no music here, even though we're at Metal Arc. We should. Stat of the day, stat of the day. Yeah, I don't want to do it. Do you know the Yankees have a winning record against every other team in baseball over their history except the Florida Miami Marlins? 29 teams the Yankees have a winning record against except our team. How great is that? The Marlins are 25-24 against the Yankees, including the World Series 4-2. That, to me, was a great stat. The Yankees, of course, have a problem. This whole weekend series against the Marlins showed an issue with the Yankees that has been bubbling up that caused Aaron Boone, after the sweep, to acknowledge that it is gut check time for the Yankees. And the reason I smiled at that statement, and I love to see Booney. We had a nice hug. We hugged it out. He sort of gave me the Boone smile, knowing that I've been critical from time to time on Nothing Personal of people who I know and love when it's warranted. Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman have a tremendous amount of pressure on them. It is true that I have called that the Yankees won't make the playoffs. I've looked at the team and made that evaluation. Before the season started, again during the season. What I didn't anticipate is the way the Yankees are playing. And I don't mean when you don't get hits, when you strike out 3 times in a game, when you don't pitch well. That's part of baseball. As an executive, we'd never get angry with our team for being no hit. It happens. We wouldn't get angry at our team for making physical errors. They happen. We get angry at our team for mental mistakes. The Yankees have been doing things constantly, whether it's throwing to the wrong base, whether it's not hitting the cutoff man, whether it's not knowing the number of outs. Base running mistakes galore. The type of errors that are inexcusable. That's the sign of a team that's not going to make it. And this weekend against the Marlins, 3 things happened of note, and I want to start with Friday night. I wish we had done a show Saturday because we talked to you about what happens the day after the trade deadline. Brian Cashman goes in, as all other GMs do. You meet your team. If you're a buyer, the clubhouse is excited. You've brought in Doval, you've brought in Bednar, you've brought in Reed, you've brought in Caballero. You've done everything you possibly can. I mean, a starter would have been great, but a starter wasn't available, so you bolster the bullpen, and everyone thinks it's going to be butterflies, unicorns. You want that first game to be a positive for your team. Well, Friday, in what could only be described as the most insane game you'll see in a long time, the Yankees lost 13-12. That would be noteworthy, other than the fact that the Yankees had all these huge leads during the game. And guess how that game was lost? All 4 Yankee trade line acquisitions played a part in the loss. The 3 pitchers, terrible. The right fielder acquired from the Rays let a ball get by him, and you saw what jersey number he was wearing, which is never a good sign. It means he's running toward the wall because a ball went under his glove. So the Yankees lose that game 13-12. If you're Brian Cashman, you're meeting the media straight up and you're saying, 1 game, not a big deal, tough start, obviously, but the media glommed onto it like paper onto thin ice, and it was, that's not even the expression. Is it paper onto thin ice? You're on thin ice. Like glue onto paper? I'm having a moment. Hi. 4869. I'm David Samson. What happened with the Yankees when they lost 13-12 Friday night is they lost using all of their new pieces, and the GM had no choice but to say, don't worry, we're fine. Great. They come to the ballpark the next day, Saturday, and the only thing that was talked about in a 2-0 loss to the Marlins was a base running mistake by Jazz Chisholm that was such an egregious mistake that if we had highlights we could show you. On an infield fly with Jazz Chisholm at first base, he's standing flat-footed in between first and second, and not only did the Marlins second baseman Edwards catch the ball, 1 out, he then doubles Chisholm off first base, 2 outs. Double play. Aaron Boone does the veteran manager thing and goes to the tunnel where no one can see. Talks to Jazz Chisholm immediately. Then, in front of everybody, talks to his first base coach saying, were you not yelling at Jazz to get back on the base? What's going on here? Of course, you yell at the first base coach in public. You do not yell at your player in public if you can stand it, if you can possibly not. If you are the PR person for the Yankees or Brian Cashman, you get to Jazz Chisholm to the extent he listens to anyone, and you say after the game, the media is going to ask you about this. I'd like you to be contrite. I'd like you to say, yeah, that's a mistake. Sorry. Bad timing. That's not what Jazz did. Good old Jazz said, nope, I'd do that again. I've played at Marlins Park. I know exactly what was going on. That was the exact right baseball move. Well, I spoke to about 20. No exaggeration. Baseball players and baseball people. Easy to do when you're around Marlins Park yesterday. 0 for 20. Not one of them agreed with Jazz. Not one. No matter what you do, no matter what you think is going to happen if he drops the ball on purpose, no matter what, you cannot be doubled off. The hitter, when he hits an infield fly, has to run it out, and the fielder has to go to second. Run. If he drops it, you're on second safely. If he catches it, you're in trouble. How about this? Stay on first base. Then, if he catches it, you're safe. If he drops it, you're out at second base. That's what you're supposed to do, folks. Did you fall for my first one? Like a standardized test? When something sounds, hey, that sounds right. And then you put it, and then you get it wrong, and then you're despondent because, oh my God, I didn't read the question. You can't get doubled off on an infield fly no matter what. What do? Stay on your base. And then Aaron Boone had the same view, but then he had to defend the player. And so he did. I'm not upset with Jazz. He said it's a guy trying to make a play. No, that's not accurate. I get it looks bad and it's a bad play, but it's not a case of a guy that's dogging it. He's just trying to make a play. Aaron, I understand you want to keep your clubhouse. I understand you want to keep Jazz motivated, but that is not accurate. It's not making a play what Jazz Chisholm did. It's not making a play. And the Yankees have not made so many plays that they find themselves behind the Red Sox. That's the problem. So Aaron Boone goes into Sunday's game, gets spanked, swept, meets the media. He's about to fly to Texas to face Patrick Corbin. He's got his ace going tonight in Max Fried. And so when the media says, how we doing, Aaron? You good? This is the time that you say, we're good. There's nothing to worry about. He actually said it's getting to be real gut check time. It's getting late. It's certainly not too late for us, and I'm confident that we're going to get it together, but that all is right now. It's empty until we start doing it. Nothing personal, fans. You know what I'm talking about. When I talk to you about early, middle, late, it is now. As you start August, we are getting to the early, late stage of the season. Except for the fact that the Yankees are 25-32 since May 29th, which is the worst record in the AL East. You want to know why the Yankees have a problem at the moment? Because they're trending wrong. When you have a 6.5 game lead in the division and now you're 4.5 back, which is really 5.5 because of the tiebreaker, you better start winning games. I like cheating. That's it. I'm happy to say it. We tried it. We tried to steal signs. We tried to do everything. We were one of 30 teams trying to steal signs every game. We had cameras. We had players. We had players at second base. We had players from the dugout. We had players everywhere trying to get signs. Part of the game. Houston Astros took it too far with the trash cans. We know that. But stealing signs the regular way, trying to learn. Jack McKeon, the Marlins Hall of Famer, who should be in Cooperstown, had bench players, Andy Fox, Mike Mordecai, winning a World Series. Their one job, because Jack never played his bench, their one job was to steal signs. They are focused on it. They are looking at patterns. They're looking at grips. They're looking at catchers, what they're doing, positioning. They're looking to see if the pitcher is tipping pitches. They're looking at the third baseman coach to see what the indicators are. There's always an indicator. So you're touching your nose and your forehead and your left ear, right ear, and then chin. And there's always an indicator. It's the first sign after the second nose. That's a real thing in baseball. So you go forehead, nose, ear, nose, and now the player knows, KNOWS, that the next thing that's touched, that's the sign. Forehead means steal. So if it's forehead, that looks like steal, but there's been no indicator. Left ear is bunt. Right ear is stay. Nose, indicator. Right field, stay. Right ear, stay. Anyway, it's an indicator if you know what that is. Did I just explain that well, Coca? Did I misspeak? You look for the indicator, so you study it. That's not cheating. The reason I call it cheating is that you all think that's cheating. It's not. Part of the game. There was a benches clearing incident in the Red Sox Astros game over sign stealing, and it made me smile. Because for the rest of time, when the Astros are involved in sign stealing, people are going to remind them of the 2017 Astros. I was about to say the 1917, and then I was thinking about the Black Sox. I was thinking about how you can do one thing, and all of a sudden that becomes what is discussed always, except when you talk about the White Sox right now, you're talking about losing $121. You don't often talk about Shoeless Joe Jackson. There'll come a time when the Astros are not associated with garbage cans. It's not today, but there'll come a time. The question is when. And the question is during that interim period, what do? Do you not play the game? You have to. You think for 1 second Joey Espada, a great coach who we had with the Marlins, who's doing very well managing the Astros, you think for 1 second that he's not working to try to steal signs? You think that Alex Cora, who was one of the architects of the sign stealing when he was with the Astros under A.J. Hinch and then went to the Red Sox, remember he got punished and got taken away from being manager for a year and then brought back because of the garbage can banging? You think Alex Cora all of a sudden is saying, hey, I have found Jesus, baby. We don't need to steal signs. We're good here. Of course they're looking to steal signs. So the Astros pitcher, Hector Neris, thought that the Red Sox were doing something to get their signs. So Neris did something brilliant. When there was a hit batter on second base who Neris thought, the Astros pitcher, the Red Sox batter on second base, the Astros pitcher said, wait a minute, is he looking at my catcher? Is he somehow relaying positioning, or is he looking inside the glove at the grip to try to get to the batter, whether I'm going to throw off speed or whether I'm throwing the heater? I don't like that. I'm going to balk him over to third base, which you can do. You can make a player leave. You can't make a player steal. You cannot look over, give him a huge lead, beg them to steal. If they don't steal, they don't steal. In baseball, if you balk, the runner advances. And it's not like in football where you get to decline. You know, when you're trying to get better field positioning on a punt and you want 5 yards back for your punting team to get more room to punt the ball out of bounds, and then that delay of game gets declined by the receiving team. And all right, we tried that. We didn't get the extra 5-yard cushion. In baseball, you can't decline a balk. A balk's a balk. And when a balk happens, then the balk means that runner goes to third base, in which case there's no longer any scenario where you've got a second person on second base looking and getting the signs. So listen, it all of a sudden became a big deal when Trevor Story went over to third base, because then he had words. He had words with Mr. Hector Neris, and it caused the benches to clear at the end of the inning. It caused the bullpens to run in side by side. It caused one of the great ironies of Alex Cora on behalf of a team saying, of course it's okay. What do you mean we're not supposed to steal signs? We're good. We've got this. And the reason I enjoyed it so much is that after the game, the media went to Hector Neris and said, hey, what were they doing here? Were the Red Sox stealing signs? And Neris said, maybe. Maybe yes, maybe no. Why would Hector Neris be counseled after the game by the PR department and by his own baseball staff to not accuse the Red Sox of stealing signs? Why would it be beneficial for the Astros to not accuse anyone of stealing signs? Even if the Astros think another team is stealing signs, they're not going to call the commissioner's office. They're not going to say anything publicly. There'll be a plunking, for sure. There'll be some balking, for sure. There'll be talk internally on a strategy, guaranteed. But publicly, No chance, Toilet Pants. If you are the Astros, that is one of the punishments you have that is a remnant of 2017, is that you are not going to be the team to publicly complain. That said, that was one heck of a story. It is Monday here in Miami. We're going to be here Monday through Thursday, so the show will be back tomorrow. We still have time. Don't go anywhere. On the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. You can stay with us, 9 o'clock for Le Batard. There's a great cast and crew in today. Plenty to talk about. Wednesday from this studio, A, we'll have some cool guests, but B, this week, we're going to do another So You Want to Talk to Samson. Coca, please put the graphic up there that allows people to really learn this phone number. Because if you want to talk to Samson, the character from Half Baked, me. If you want to get your question on the air, leave a voicemail. 20 to 40 seconds if you don't mind, please. 631-DPS-4869. That number again, 631-377-4869. Leave me a message. Let's do the review, Coca. It's time for the review. Yes, I watch a movie every day, whether I go to a game, whether I watch a game, whether I'm traveling, whether I'm doing 7 hours of shows. Doesn't matter. I will get a movie in today through hell or high water. The movie I watched yesterday, Travel Day, that I told you I would and I did. Materialists. Whew. I don't know how anyone could give Materialists a good review. I just don't know how it's possible. I happen to love Celine's song. This is her second movie that I've seen. Her first is Past Lives, one of the best movies you'll see. Materialist with a 6.5 on IMDb. Tell me how. Pedro Pascal plays a rich guy, not with anxiety disorder, but he's dating Dakota Johnson, who's a matchmaker, who sets up girls and goes through the criteria. Hey, what do you need? I need money. What do you need? I need 30. What do you need? I need 40. What do you need? I need this physical characteristic. I need this ability, this athletic body, this ability to row and whatever. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Come on. Terrible. Dakota Johnson doing her job. Can you imagine what are the odds that you make a match with two people and one of them turns out to be an A-Rod? Oh, that's not exactly right. I can't say the word. One of them turns out to be I didn't even say A-Rod, an A whatever, a bad person. Then you get very sad and you cry as the matchmaker. Oh my God, I had no idea this would happen. You're a matchmaker. What do you think? It's going to be great? Like everyone's going to get married and everyone's not going to snow you into thinking, oh, I'm such a great guy. I filled out my online application. Turns out you're an absolute assaulter. Dakota Johnson has one note in the entire movie. She delivers all of her lines like this. Her face is completely straight. She has very much no emotion, as though she is still under the spell of Chris Martin. Chris Evans. People are saying he did his best acting. What, because he's Captain America throwing a shield around? What was the acting? Trying to get the girl when he's the poor one, going against the rich one, like Woody Harrelson and Robert Redford in Indecent Proposal? What are we doing? I'm going to save you the time here and the trouble. You're not going to watch it. You know why? You want to work with a matchmaker? You want to be introduced to people? Get on a dating site? Here's an idea. Get out there, be honest, and don't have someone meet you and think to themselves, that doesn't look like the Photoshop picture, or wow, all these interests don't seem to be true. Because you, whoever you are, whatever you do, whatever you like, someone's going to love you, no matter what. I can't wait to watch today's movie, Coca. I'm going to watch The Life of Chuck today with Tom Hiddleston. And I'm going to review that tomorrow. If you have a chance, I've been waiting for this to come out. If you can watch it by tomorrow, I'm going to have to watch it post-Le Batard and prep for tomorrow's show, but I'm going to get it in. Speaking of getting it in, from a baseball standpoint, when you prepare for something, like a game at Bristol Speedway, where you're going to have 90,000 people, you spend several years planning it, you spend millions of dollars getting the baseball park inside the oval. It is a huge deal. Fox is broadcasting it. It's a jewel event. It's like Field of Dreams, Fort Bragg, Williamsport. This is a big deal. You plan for a lot of stuff. You have to. Here's what you can plan for. You cannot plan for Mother Nature. And God, did Mother Nature take a big fat all over Major League Baseball on Saturday night. It was terrible. They introduced the players. They're dressed in like Will Ferrell and, Coca. What's the name of the movie with Will Ferrell and Talladega Nights? Thank you, Coca. Hi. 57, man. It's going to happen from time to time when you don't have a script. Yeah, the starting pitcher coming in wearing Wonder Bread. Like, it was amazing. The players were in. Of course it was uncomfortable. Of course the clubhouses are quasi-major league, but not really. Of course it's weird and there's obstructed seats because there's 90,000 people coming. A lot of things, but it's cool. Then it rains. And then it rains, and then it rains. Your worst nightmare is that you have a rain delay, and Fox has to go to rainy day programming. They got to go to Jeter and A-Rod doing fill-in, which was whatever. And then you start the game, and you feel like we're going to get the game in. After one inning, it rains and rains and rains, and poor Mike Hill had to stand there with Ken Rosenthal and say, yep, looks like we're going to have to suspend this game and start it again tomorrow. Total nightmare. It led to like a social media frenzy. Now Firefest is being used as the comparator to everything that's bad. So they ran out of food. They ran out of hot dogs. I don't buy it at all. The lines were terrible. The sight lines were terrible. Everything was a joke. Of course, on social media, everything gets completely put in a way that can exaggerate the situation. But what I will say is that it was a classic opportunity that Mother Nature got in the way of. They played the game the next day. They did set the record of 91,032. That is an attendance. Of course, I told you they'd break the record. I had to wait to see about that. Don't forget that. I had to wait to see that the MLB game at Bristol would be the highest attended game in MLB history. I don't remember the date, Coco, but you can go back and look. Somebody can go back and look. And it's true. Because MLB was not going to allow for it not to be that. That was the purpose of it. It's like doing the Guinness Book World Records for hot dog eating and stopping like 3 short. No, you get them down and you set the record. That wait to see was on August 8th of 2024 when the game was announced. Talk about accountability. We went back a year to that wait to see to bring it back to you today. A year. Is it possible that they ran out of concessions and concessions ran out of food before the game? Is it possible there were long lines? Is it possible there were terrible obstructed views? Is it possible that on Sunday when the fans had to come back, they were allowed to bring their own food in because the concession stands were empty because they hadn't planned on 2 days' worth? Is it possible that the players, it was a nightmare where they were going to spend the night because they were going to fly out of there after the game on Sunday to their next game? Is it possible that it was one of the great logistic nightmares of all time? Is it possible that MLB would say to themselves, never again, overusing that incorrect phrase to say it in those circumstances, but is it possible that they would say that? And the answer is no. The answer is they had a tarp. The answer is rain happens in baseball. Rain happens. The answer is there was a contingency plan if there's a rainout because there can always be a rainout. Did they want it? No. Were they ready for it? Yes. Were the players happy about it? No. Will it stop a future game at a cool place? No, because one of the things baseball's doing is they've got a budget line item. A little nugget is that in many companies, when you budget something and you don't use it, it tends to be taken away. Which is why most departments use their whole budget, and there's a frenzy at the end of the fiscal year to use your budget so you can say to your supervisor, hey, good budget, we need a 5% increase for next year, but we used it all. But if you're paying attention as a commissioner or a president or an owner and you see the uses of funds and the timing of those funds, and that it was done just to look like you had zeroed out your budget, that doesn't work. However, baseball has a very healthy budget for these, what they call special games. It is not about just finding a situs for them and then spending millions of dollars just to say you're doing it. The purpose behind these games is that the broadcasters love it. When you have an opportunity to present them with value-added regular season game, a jewel event that's not the All-Star game, that's not the postseason, that's not opening day, when you have an opportunity to show your partners, look, we can get eyeballs to a game just like the in-season tournament in the NBA. All the things that baseball does, that all the sports are doing, that's what's happening right now with baseball and these games, and it's not going to change. I don't know what they've announced for next year, but I can assure you there will be more special games. Last night, while you were sleeping, the NFL Players Association was not sleeping. I've got an update on a story. I would like to send my congratulations to David White. You are the interim executive director of the NFLPA, taking over for Lloyd Howell. Congrats. If you recognize that name, that's because you're paying attention. Number one, that's the same guy who was a finalist when Howell got it. That's the same guy who used to be the head of the SAG-AFTRA union. That's the same guy who Pablo Torre did a show about and explained that David White had just a few skeletons in the closet, which would make it extremely surprising if he would get this job. It's the same guy who J.C. Tretter, the shamed, now gone J.C. Tretter of the NFLPA, it's the same guy that he wanted, supposedly. Well, wouldn't you know? The NFLPA, they couldn't help themselves. They stayed in their comfort zone, and here's how it works. You have a group of interim people who are going for it, and the situation is that you've got a committee, and the committee is made up of player reps from each of the 32 teams. Those are the people who vote. Then you have a committee above that. They're like the head of the player reps. It's the same with the baseball union. It's the same with the NBA. Very, very common. And they've been working super hard to try to figure out how to identify someone in the interim while making it clear that an interim executive director is not a permanent one. Now, the interim executive director will have the easiest path to being named permanent. But what the union had to do was say, we'll name an interim today, but we'll do an exhaustive search for a permanent. And you can bet your sweet bippy that the part of the search will include those who were up for interim who didn't get it last night. The reason I was surprised that they went with David White is because of the baggage he comes with, and it really would make no sense to me to hire him. When Pablo told you that part of SAG-AFTRA was David White, head of the union, trying to quash stories about pedophilia within the ranks of his industry. When Pablo Torre is going through and giving you facts, talking about, he's giving you information that he wanted out there for all of the NFLPA voters, executive council, player reps, players. He wanted everyone to say, listen, if you're not going to get told the facts about your candidates, I might as well. And then make your own decision. I will bet dollars to donuts that not one player, and this is nothing against you, Pablo, you know that, not one player rep had paid attention to the PTFO episode. They'd heard about it, maybe. But to them, it certainly was not going to be something that was going to sway them in any decision. So they went with David White because of comfort. They went with David White because he's done it before as ED of SAG-AFTRA. When other interim candidates clearly had the football experience within the union, when other interim candidates had actually done it before, it blew my mind. There was a spokesperson on behalf of the Board of Player Reps. His name is Jalen Reeves-Maben. He came out and said, this is a quote, "I am proud to share that David White has been elected to serve as our interim executive director. This decision is the result," wait for this, he actually said this, "of a comprehensive player-led process." I would just like to tell you that when we know who we want because we had it in our head before we started the process, we did fake interviews and we never gave anyone else a real chance because we took care of it. Whether we had to deal with the CELIG rule and interview minorities or whether we were hiring a minority and we had to interview white people, whatever we had to do, it didn't matter. Very few times in my career did we go into a hiring process without knowing who we were going to hire. Very, very few times. And that's normal. You can be surprised if you allow yourself to be surprised. You can be open if you allow yourself not to be closed. The majority of people who go into searches like this already have it narrowed down, and then they protest that very fact. They go out of their way to tell you how comprehensive this search was. Can you imagine if the owner of the Expos, when he bought the Expos, said, "I did a comprehensive search for president, and it led me right back to my son"? Did Jerry Jones do a comprehensive search when he hired himself as GM or his son as EVP? You may do some sort of search. Comprehensive? Nah. The comprehensive comes if the person who gets the job for whatever reason isn't good at the job, and then you finally realize, wait a minute, we're going to have to do something major here. So Jalen Reeves talks about this comprehensive search, and then David White gets to give a comment that's the most canned comment you'll see, and man, we see a lot of them here. "I am grateful to the NFLPA's player leadership for entrusting me with the privilege and responsibility to guide their union as interim executive director. It's a duty I do not take lightly, and I'm committed," here it is, "to reestablishing trust and ensuring the union is serving its members best." It's like page 3 of the playbook. He could have written that before he got the job. Maybe that was part of his interview. "What are you going to do, David? I'm not really interviewing you because you're going to get it. But let me just ask, what's the first thing you're going to do?" "I want to establish trust and leadership and cohesiveness. I want to be here for the little guy and the people at the top end of the pay market." His statement actually said, "I look forward to working with the entire NFLPA team to protect players' health and safety, secure their financial well-being, and further strengthen their voice to shape their futures." Do you know when you do a job description, do you think the job description for the interim director of the NFLPA said that your job is to protect players' health and safety, to secure the players' financial well-being, and to further strengthen their voice to shape their futures? Do you think for a minute that that was part of it? Because I do. I think it would have been smarter for the NFLPA to hire anybody other than David White because he's going to end up leaving in a cloud of disgrace. He is not going to be able to do any of the things that are being asked for in the NFLPA handbook of what an executive director should be. Why do I know that? Why? Because all of this was canned and preset. There was not anything based on merit. It was based on quickness and comfort and the ability to get rid of the story, when in fact it should have been the other way. The NFLPA should have said everything we've done we got to do differently. Get rid of anybody with any sort of thread to our past where we were not accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish. And then you can just look at all the candidates and say, no, 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 no. And then do a search firm. Find a matchmaker. We'll be back for a second hour right after this. Welcome back. Today is Monday, August 4th, 2025. I am live from Meadowlark Studios here in Miami. In about 1 hour and 8 minutes, I will be helping the Dan Le Batard show for a couple hours each day. Happy to be doing it. Excited for that, but excited that we have a whole second hour to get to here on today's Nothing Personal. And I want to start with the Dallas Cowboys because thank you so much to Jerry Jones. I try to thank him every time I can. The gift that keeps on giving. He and Micah Parsons are having a thing, and when Jerry Jones has an issue with the player, he gives some great quote. Micah Parsons, you may know, we've talked about him. No deal, no nothing. Wait, we thought there was a deal. A deal we'd been told by Jerry Jones. There was an agreement. Everything was fine. But nothing ever got signed. Nothing ever got done. And then there was a rumor this weekend. Can't be true. Micah Parsons was going to demand a trade. No, please don't go the same way as all these other players who try to use that as leverage to get their deal. Don't use it as a way of leverage to actually get traded. You're a Cowboy. You're associated with the Cowboys. Is this just part of what Jerry does? And then we got some more detail, and it was BA Triple D. The Micah Parsons-Cowboy relationship has deteriorated so badly that Micah Parsons did a social media post. If there's one thing that we tell our players, please, for the love of God, don't tell me something on social media that you haven't told me first. I don't want to learn anything on an Insta post. Well, Micah Parsons said, tell me if you like this. Tell me if this is convincing. He released this letter on Friday after we had recorded, and it was like an update, sort of. Unfortunately, I no longer want to be here. This is Parsons talking about the Cowboys. I no longer want to be held to closed-door negotiations without my agent present. We're going to get to that. I no longer want shots taken at me for getting injured while laying it on the line for the organization, our fans, and my teammates. We'll get to that. I no longer want narratives created and spread to the media about me. I'll get to that. I had purposely stayed quiet in hopes of getting something done. Yikes. He's not staying quiet anymore. What's he exactly talking about? Well, do you remember we covered Jerry Jones talking about Micah Parsons? Do you remember we talked about Jerry Jones saying that, hey, Micah Parsons misses like 6 games, so what do we don't need to pay him for those 6 games? Turned out he missed 4. Let's not let the facts get in the way of a good story. Remember we told you that Jerry Jones didn't even know who Micah Parsons' agent was, and we said horse hockey. If my GM didn't know the agent of one of my star players, fired. But of course, Jerry Jones, the owner, can't pay attention to what Jerry Jones, the GM, knows because he can't tell the frickin' difference between the GM and the owner, but we can here at Nothing Personal. There is no way the GM of the Cowboys doesn't know Micah Parsons' agent. None. Next. Negotiating with the player without the agent present? Micah, let me give you a word of advice. You don't have to allow Jerry Jones, the owner, the GM, or anyone on the Cowboys to put you in a negotiating session without your agent. It's like a criminal situation. Would you like an attorney? You have the right to an attorney. They're called rights. Do you know that it's not granted by the Constitution by any stretch at all? But did you know in a negotiation, you're allowed to say to your boss, hold on one second, I'd like to consult somebody. Hey, I'm not that comfortable talking about this. Can I get someone to represent me, please? This is normal. You know, we'd like to give you a raise of cost of living, which you think is 4%, but we're going to give you a raise of 2%. Have fun. Well, thank you so much for that. May I have another? Sometimes you can say, I'd like a bigger raise. I'm not happy with that raise. Let me be back to you. Many employees are scared to do that because they're scared their employers will move on from them. I get it. I understand that advocating for yourself can be hard. But in the world of sports and in the world of sports agents, to complain publicly that you're tired of having to negotiate without your agent present, that's your fault. Find me a team that tells you they will not talk to an agent, and I'll find you a team that does not exist. As president of a team, I tried to get around agents. I would send offers to players to make sure that the players got the offers, because agents like Scott Boras would sometimes not even send the offers to the players. That happens. It happened, Scott. You can deny it all you want, but it happened. And you know exactly who I'm talking about. Or you can CC the agent and the player, or you can do it on the field when the agent's not around, but it's not a negotiating session. You can saddle right up to the player. Micah, what's shaking, man? How you doing? What's going on? Yeah, we're trying to get this done right now. What do you got? Guaranteed signing of a $120, $130, looking for the record. What do you think? Do you know what the player's taught to say by the union? What the player's taught to say by the agent? Shh. Stop. Do not discuss your salary with anyone on your team without your agent present. Just talk about, yeah, man, I'm getting ready to the game. My ham's feeling a little tender, so I'm going to do extra stretching. Hey, man, I'm going to go running. Hey, I'm going to go lifting. There's a million things you can do. The Cowboys made everything worse, though. Jerry Jones walks to the media after this Micah Parsons letter is received. And he looks right at the media, and he's like, I don't know this is not a big deal. I'll say right now, don't lose any sleep over this. Micah Parsons asking for a trade. This is just negotiating. And I'm sorry to say, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between, that's exactly what this is. The problem is there's sometimes when players play this hand, they play the card, trade me or sign me. Sometimes they do end up getting traded. So is it possible Micah Parsons gets traded? Well, Jerry Jones said, I paid Dak, I paid Lamb. Why would you think I'm not going to pay Micah? I don't need to go through an agent. I'm the GM of this team. I can talk to the player, give him the offer. I can do all these things. I love Micah. But by the way, let's be clear, Jerry Jones said. This is simply a step. He's in a bad mood. He decided to go public. It's not going to impact my offer. It's not going to impact our relationship. Everything's good here. But if anyone asks you, you tell them that Jerry Jones said to you directly that I offered him a hell of a lot more than you think I did. That's what you don't know. But my point is reached. I reached. Jerry Jones trying to get you, the audience, who he thinks is so stupid, which you know drives me crazy. He wants you to believe that he reached for Micah Parsons in a way that is uncomfortable, that he will not reach further, but lest there be misunderstanding, I offered him more than I should have. We always would say that. But when you're involved in a fight like this where the player demands a trade, you got to hold off on that until after you trade him or after you sign him. There has to be resolution. The reason why you can't say in the middle of a negotiation is, man, I've reached. I've got nowhere to go, because unless you know where it's going to end, then you're caught. Because if you've reached, and you've reached as far as you can go, that means by definition the negotiation's over. The Cowboys are not done negotiating with Micah Parsons by any stretch. If you end up trading him, if he ends up signing, then you can say, not only did I reach, but I didn't want to reach to the point of hurting the team, and the last offer was a number that would have hurt the team. You can go through all that stuff, but now's not the time, because for whatever reason, people are conveniently forgetting that Micah Parsons is a signed player. It drives me insane. I don't want to waste 1 minute if I'm the GM or president of a team on one of my guys who signed. You want to trade? Great. Have fun not playing. You're contracted toll. What do you want to be, Le'Veon Bell? Be it. Happy to have you do it. Call his bluff, Jerry. End this. Just stop meeting the media trying to boast about all the things you've done and how great you are at what you do. End it. Either make Micah Parsons play on the current contract he has, or make Micah Parsons sit. Give him a deadline. Are you too scared because the regular season doesn't start for 4 weeks? What could be the reason why you want to drag this out? The attention? That's what people in the media are saying. Jerry Jones loves the attention. It is the most misdirected, terrible take I've heard in people from our industry. He loves doing the same thing. He keeps the news, Cowboys news in July and August, and then he goes and signs the guy. He won't miss a game. Everything's coming up roses. I am unwilling to acknowledge that that's what Jerry Jones does because he can't be that stupid. He's not. I like when people think that I'm stupid. I actually do because it gives me a total advantage in any negotiation, in any relationship. I never wanted to assume somebody else was not smart because it makes you lazy. It makes you actually not achieve everything you can achieve out of a business relationship when you underestimate the intelligence of the other side. There's a big deal that got announced this weekend between the NFL and ESPN, and man, there's a lot of chatter about it, so I wanted to clear up a few things. Number one, the NFL is trying to sell its media properties, NFL Network, NFL Red Zone, trying to sell that to ESPN. There are two ways that ESPN could have gone about getting permission to have the assets of NFL Network and the assets of NFL Red Zone for its new direct-to-consumer product, for its entire business. Two ways they could have done it. One, you can do it with cash. Two, you can do it with stock. When you own a public company, and you are that public company, there are shares of stock in a public company that are available to be granted and sold to someone in order to get something back. The deal that was announced this weekend between the NFL and ESPN was a stock deal. What that means is that Disney Company is going to be giving a percentage of shares. It turns out to be a number of shares. They actually calculated if there's 1 million shares outstanding, there are way more at Disney, but just for purposes of this math equation, if there's 1 million shares outstanding and you give 10 million shares to somebody, do the math, they have 10% of the company. We're not talking about voting rights. We're not talking about board seats. We're talking about shares of the company. If you give somebody 10% of your company, you've got to get value back. If your company's valued at $1 billion and you give 10% of your company to someone, they have to give you $100 million of something. It can be cash, it can be in kind, it can be promotion money that you calculate, that they calculate. It can be myriad things. But that's a transaction. What NFL and ESPN agreed to do was historic in many regards. The Athletic had reported this, that they reached an agreement, and now they have. Where ESPN takes the Red Zone channel, they take NFL Network, they take 7 international games that NFL Network had done, and they add them to the ESPN menu. In return, NFL gets a 10% stake in ESPN. A lot of questions. No answers right now. 1, government approval required? Check. Will Trump get in the way? Unclear. What is the overall valuation of ESPN? Talked about it on the Sporting Class with John Skipper. Hope you checked out the show that was released on Friday under Pablo Torre Finds Out. You can also find it wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, etc. But one of the things we talk about in detail there is, how does it work? If ESPN, as a part of Disney, wanted to be sold, and there was always talk about this, is it worth $5 billion, $10 billion, $20 billion, $50 billion, $100 billion, $500 million? Where's the number? We've got a number now, because the NFL now owns 10% of ESPN, which means there's an overall valuation of ESPN as computed by the two sides in the negotiation, which means that Bob Iger, the chairman and CEO of Disney, had to have been involved with Jimmy Pitaro, the president of ESPN, because if you're going to put a value on ESPN, that's going to impact the value of the entire company and therefore impact the share price. Therefore, by having equity as part of the deal, it changes the board completely. It changes the way we will look at ESPN. It changes the relationship between the NFL and ESPN. It changes earnings analyst calls every quarter for the next God knows number of years, where analysts will be able to dig in and get a value for ESPN and therefore extrapolate values of the other silos of Disney according to the stock price. It's sort of like when you're doing Sudoku and you get a break and therefore it opens up the world into what other numbers are needed. This sort of deal, once the valuation comes out, which it hasn't, but once it does, there will be a roadmap to answer the questions that so many of us in sports business had. You have to understand that now the ESPN networks and the NFL are partners. How's it going to go for journalists for ESPN who are hard-hitting journalists who are going after the NFL? Our friend, Pablo's friend, Don Van Natta. How is that going to work? Do you think that it's going to be acceptable for ESPN to say anything bad about the NFL when the NFL is one of its owners? You don't think the NFL would call? Now, are they going to do something hugely funny when this gets announced? The NFL has agreed. They will not get in the way of ESPN and whatever reporting they want to do. Horse hockey. When baseball took over John Boy, don't you worry. John Boy will still be John Boy. They will never not be able to criticize the commissioner of baseball, etc. Horse hockey. Have you seen John Boy recently? It's normal. It's to be expected. When NFL is a partner, you've got to treat them differently. You've got to treat them better. You have a responsibility to that league, not just because they're rights holders and you're partners in that way. Now they want to be actual equity partners. It was the biggest bit of the news that I had not contemplated when I thought ESPN was buying the assets of the NFL in a straight asset purchase agreement. When some of the consideration is in stock, it changes the way you think about something. Is all of a sudden the NFL, why would they not be inclined to give ESPN a better Monday night schedule than Amazon or Netflix or any of the other CBS, NBC? Why wouldn't Disney get the best games? The better Disney does, the NFL's got a trailing interest, a 10% interest. Why would they not arrange it in their next deals that ESPN gets more Super Bowls? ESPN and ABC getting the Super Bowl is an absolute boon to the bottom line of ESPN and Disney. Shares up, stock price up, all of the stockholders richer. The opportunity for self-dealing in this deal is staggering to me and scary to me. Will it happen? We'll wait to see. Now, is it possible that this deal doesn't go through at all? No sooner was it announced that there was reported by Front Office Sports, our good friends there, there's growing concern that U.S. President Donald Trump could seek to delay or block the long-awaited deal for the NFL to sell Red Zone and other NFL media assets to Disney. Uh-oh. Does this sound familiar? What deal does this sound like to you? Any deal where there was a merger, CBS, any deal where there was some sort of hold-up Skydance, and any deal where something major happened in a settlement that got to an immediate approval by the FTC? Anybody? Anybody, Bueller? You think for one hot second that what Columbia did when they settled with Trump, what Brown is doing, and what other schools are all going to bend over, acquiesce, and do, and settle with Trump, whether you agree or not agree? That's the facts of the game, folks. There are people doing math equations left, right, and center and pretending they're moral. It's math. Math isn't moral. Math is completely non-denominational, totally neutral, and never wrong. Ever. You don't think that the math will show and give a guidepost to what the NFL should do in its relationship with Disney now that they're an owner of Disney? It's not even going to be hard to see. It's going to be so obvious. Nothing personal pick of the day. I had a disagreement with Coke over this. Nothing personal pick today. We had 3 games this weekend. We had the Padres beating the Cardinals Friday. They won. We had the Phillies and Wheeler trying to beat Scooble and the Tigers Saturday. They lost. But then yesterday, we told you it was Corbin Day. Until I realized that it was Corbin Day, but then it was DeGrom who pitched, not Corbin, and they pushed Corbin back to tonight. Here's the argument. When I did my nothing personal pick of the day on Friday, did you put in the bets that day? Because my view is I put in the play, that's it. If Corbin pitches a third and then gets hit in the shin bone, what am I going to do? If Corbin pitches 8 2/3, what am I going to do? If Corbin gets scratched, it's not like a rainout. The game went on. But Coca would not let me take the win. He gave me an NA. I'm upset with you, Coca. We went 1-1-1. So we're 103-97. And now here's the craziest part of my pick of the day. This is not a recording from Friday, August 1st. My nothing personal pick of the day for Monday, August 3rd, 2025 is it's Corbin Day. Do you remember from the beginning of the show who I said Corbin was pitching against? How good are you at listening to both shows? Did you listen to the first hour yet on 2x speed? Did you get to the part where I was talking about the Yankees? Did you get to the part where you have the team meeting or you talk about the fact that, hey, it's go time and that they're flying to Dallas to play the Rangers, and oh, it's Max Fried going tonight, the ace, and therefore it's a perfect time for a meeting? It's perfect time for Aaron Boone to say it's gut check time because it's Corbin Day. So we're taking Max Fried over the Rangers. The Yankees will break their losing streak, get rid of the sweep that happened at the hands of the Miami Marlins, and start winning. One of the things I love to do is to be the bearer of bad news to people. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? I love being the bearer of good news too. Hey, congratulations, blank happened. But mostly in my job, I'm the bearer of bad news because good news likes to be delivered by people. No one likes to deliver bad news, so I'm there to deliver whatever. Therefore, I end up with the bad news more often than not. If you are living in Boston and you are a Boston fan and you believe that you're about to have a WNBA team, hold on to your britches, folks, because there is no WNBA team moving to Boston anytime soon. Why there was an announcement this weekend, beyond me. Breaking news. A group led by Celtics minority owner Steve Pagliuca has made a deal to buy the Connecticut Sun for $325 million. It's manna from heaven. A WNBA team can be worth $325 million. That stinks. On and off the court. Moving it to Boston. That's what the Boston Globe reported. I said to myself when I read that, I said, well, I got to cover that Monday. Let me get to Coca. Wait, Coca's away. Can't do it. I'm not going to bother Jack on a Saturday because we don't get enough days off because we're giving you 2 hours every day because we love doing it. Who do I tell? Who do I call? So, realizing I know when to call, I call myself, which I do from time to time because when I call myself, I leave a message. Hey, David, don't forget to talk about the WNBA on Monday because you can bet that this Connecticut Sun ain't moving to Boston. No sooner do I record my message saying, make sure people realize this, that the WNBA released a statement. Immediately, they released a statement to the Boston Globe about the sale of the Connecticut Sun and said, hold on, Chachi. There is no WNBA team relocating from Connecticut to Boston. And if you'd like to read my statement, read it. Make sure you get it out there, Samson. So I will. Relocation decisions are made by the WNBA Board of Governors and not by individual teams. Hello, do you know what the minority owner of the Celtics cannot do is buy a team in Connecticut and move them to Boston? Doesn't work that way. You got to get the votes, Jakey boy. You got so ahead of yourself that my guess is you were completely naked and your Bugs Bunny outfit was 20 feet in front of you and you're running to catch up to it, trying to slide back into it. Therefore, while you're doing it, you're trying to come up with a statement of your own to backtrack what you said because it was so bad. The WNBA continued with their statement saying, hey, we got tons of cities involved. Who knows if it's going to be Boston? We don't know. Stay tuned. And then they said, quote, no groups from Boston applied for a team at that point, at that time, and those other cities, and they're talking about Cleveland, Detroit, Philadelphia, those other cities remain under consideration. Then all of a sudden, Steve realized, oh no, I screwed this up so badly. What am I going to do? What do you do when you screw something up? You triple down with a statement. And so he did. I just want to get it to you because it's good. Our objective, should we acquire the team, is to honor that legacy, further invest in the team, grow the devoted fan base in the region, and build a championship team that players and fans continue to be proud of. He's talking about Connecticut, not Boston, folks. He's completely said, hey, if I can buy the Connecticut Sun, we're the Connecticut Sun. He then said our offer is subject to obtaining the required league approvals, as is the case for all such transactions. This approval has not been attained thus far, and we cannot proceed without it. We all respect, cooperate with, and abide by all league rules and decisions on these matters. You know what that's called, folks? TLTL. Too little, too late. My thought here is that what Steve is trying to do is trying to get the team first and then say, hey, we are the New England region, so we should absolutely be able to move the team to Boston. He's trying to say that the only reason I'll pay $325 is if we can get into bigger arenas in New England. He believes that he offered $325 for the right to move the team into that Boston area. But when he realized he didn't have the league approvals, he had no permission to do it, he had to backtrack and say, well, we'd like to secure those, but we haven't yet. Do you know what it all means? It means the Connecticut Sun are not moving to Boston so fast because the math has to be done by the WNBA, which means by the NBA. Sorry, Pablo and Skipper. By the NBA, they've got to say, well, if we move a team to Boston and we're expanding in the next 5 years, Boston's an expansion team, how much money would the expansion fee get? And we've got to make that part of the relocation fee. If we don't make that part of the relocation fee to go from Connecticut to Boston, then we're throwing money down the tubes. Expansion is the way that we can somehow get back to par. It's the way we can pay down part of our debt. This is WNBA owners talking. Expansion, relocation. These are all ways to get money to owners. The fact that some rogue guy who wanted to buy the Celtics and ended up being the underbidder and not getting the team, and he's bitter being the underbidder, and then pivoting to the WNBA and saying, I've got the best idea. I'm going to make history and get Connecticut, the team out of Connecticut, and get them right to Boston. I'm going to give you an official wait to see if you don't mind. Wait to see is when we tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, fine. You can get wait to sees on the Nothing Personal with David Samson website, which is called davidsamsonpodcast.com. You can go there right now while you're watching this live or on the DraftKings Network. Just type in on your second device, I know you have one, davidsamsonpodcast.com. And you can find merch, you can find episodes, you can find a tracking document which gives all of our wait to sees, picks of the day, words of the day, etc. Every movie we've reviewed, it's all there. And I'm going to add one for August 4th. The WNBA Sun will not move to Boston prior to paying a relocation fee. It's an easy wait to see. You're going to say to me, David, you may lose. The Oakland A's didn't have to pay a relocation fee to Vegas. And I'll say, I know that. That's the whole point of the wait to see. This is not a Vegas situation and an Oakland A's and Sacramento situation. This is the an embryonic league. They need expansion fee money, and they're going to get it. That's my wait to see. Congratulations to the District of Columbia. Are you excited to get the Commander Stadium? Do you feel like everything's done? Did you all read in your newspaper that you got the first approval of the D.C. Council this weekend, and that's it? And now it's just a matter of when, not if. Let's start spending the money. Let's start figuring out, are we going to be the Redskins? Are we going to be the Commanders? Do we hate the federal government? Do we love them? Do we need them? We'd like them to buy a suite. We'd like Trump to come to a game. We'd like our ballpark and our stadium to be the place to be for the power brokers of this United States. Are you jacked up? Are you thinking to yourself, oh, we got this. This is going to open in 2030. You ready? Okay. I got a few things for you on the Commanders getting their first approval from D.C. after this council vote. Number one, not the final approval, but we know this. Anytime you think that something's the final approval, it's not. You have to go back with agreements and documents and operational things. Every time you think it's the final, there's more. Two. When they approved in a 9-3 vote this revised deal for a 65,000-seat stadium and the $3.8 billion multi-use development project that will be on the old RFK site, when you got the team and Josh Harris and the National Football League to pay $2.7 billion and you are only paying 1.1 in public funding, you get to do the math and say that is a really good ratio. We can go to the Association of Cities and have a meeting with all of our fellow negotiators who are being rolled over a barrel by sports teams, and we can say, hey, we gave over $1 billion, but the percentage that is privately financed, we got that done. We're good. You could believe that all that's done. And then you'd realize that there's a whole nother vote coming. There's a whole nother vote September 17th. That nothing's been approved of any kind until September 17th. Now, it is true that on September 17th, they only need 7 out of the 13 votes and not 10. That is true. 7 instead of 9. But do you know what they're doing right now? I'm going to give you input because when we had time in between approval meetings, we were working our tuchuses off to make sure that we didn't lose any of the yeses and that we controlled all the no's, that they could just be no and be no quietly and not try to poison any of our yeses. We worked every single day to meet with every single city and county commissioner legally under the sunshine laws, never together with anyone else. We were keeping track. We had a board, not illegal either, keeping track of votes, issues, etc. We have a list of all the things that we are willing to give, if any, in any sort of backroom deal that we then have to present to the rest of the commission. Hey, do you need this? All right. We need your vote. We'll think about it. The D.C. deal is not done. That is the conclusion of these announcements, except the way it's announced, you get the feeling that everything's great. Not the case. It may still happen, but not today. When you're trying to finish these deals, Coca, I'll tell you, you got to add a bunch of stuff at the end. And if you're a smart negotiator, you keep a bunch of stuff with you that you can then give at the end to make it look like you're giving. Like if you know that you're starting a youth academy and you know what the budget is for youth academy, you do not mention in the negotiation. As a matter of fact, you say, when asked about a youth academy, you say, just FYI, we have no interest in a youth academy. We'll let them play youth football in Maryland for all we care. Well, the fact is the team, the Washington Commanders under Josh Harris, were willing to allocate resources to change the deal to make it palatable. And what the council people would have you say is they're good at doing their job. What the Commanders will never tell you is they knew exactly what they'd have to give when, and anything they gave at the end was for the purpose of making the politicians feel like they had a victory. $20 million into a Commanders youth academy. The Commanders and football teams are doing youth academies left, right, and center. Their budgeted allocation was going to be $20 million to the youth academy. Now what you get to say is, we're only doing that as part of this deal, so you've exacted a win in this negotiation. Way to go. $7 million given to local business leaders over 10 years in subsidies. Budgeted. $3 million for grocery subsidies for residents in a ward near RFK. Don't worry, budgeted. We have a whole community department. We raise money, spend money. The owner puts money in. We're going to deliver turkeys on Thanksgiving, but let it be known that when we're negotiating for a new ballpark, we're not doing anything charitable. But then at the end, when we're asked to do something, we're a yes in return for getting something else. Of course we're going to end up being a great part of the community. Of course we're going to do turkey giveaways and Christmas toy giveaways to underprivileged kids. Of course we're going to make school visits and all the things that are important within the community. But when you're negotiating, why would you say all that? That's worth money. Commanders have just done a tremendous job. We're up to the part of the show where I have to say that we are a DraftKings show. They are our sponsor. Thank you, DraftKings. We're on your network right now. Part of Nothing Personal. Hold on to your hats because we have to talk about it. We have to talk about the very real thing that's going on in prop betting. And we have to talk about what the governor in Ohio just did. The governor in Ohio is trying to find a way to stop prop betting. You're not too surprised because there's a bunch of states trying to do it. The biggest concern is over, wait a minute, we have a real integrity issue. We've got players betting against themselves, betting on themselves. When you can bet whether a pitcher throws a ball next and the pitcher can make money by throwing a ball, guess what? You're pretty tempted to throw a ball. When you can make money for not getting 4 rebounds, you're pretty confident that you can make it so you don't get 4 rebounds. When you're confident and know that you have a prop bet that you have to get over 2.5 assists, you can bet your sweet bipsters you're passing the ball and you are finding the hot shooter or the hot guy for the layup. You need those assists. Now, that's me being nefarious. That's me thinking the worst of everyone, which I don't want to do. I want the new leaf turned. I want me to be me, like jolly, like never questioning anything. Oh, just walking around with my head in the clouds, saying this all works. Everyone's getting along. I'm so happy. The reality is the reason Governor DeWine wants to talk about and ban prop betting is he's got 2 professional baseball players in the Cleveland Guardians who may be suspended for life for what they did. You've got a governor in Mike DeWine who already has gone after prop betting for colleges. Do you remember when he did an entire play, pun intended, in order to get prop betting banned? Do you remember that in Ohio, it actually happened? That the Casino Control Commission of Ohio did remove prop bets for collegiate sporting events? Do you remember why? What the etymology is, the provenance of this prop betting scandal and the loss of prop betting in a state near you? Why it can get banned or why it can't? Have you ever walked into a casino and said, God, it looks nice here. Nice chandelier. God, there's so much space here. What's the reason? They make money off you. Do you know why slot machines take up the overwhelming majority of the real estate in a casino? Any idea? Because the majority of you are playing slot machines and you're all losing. Every single one of you. It is the greatest source of revenue in Vegas is the slot machines. Do you know what a great source of revenue is for betting companies? Prop bets. Do you know that that then means that why would any gambling company want to get rid of something that they make money doing? And they're not hiding that fact. It is very much out there. Prop betting hard. Prop betting odds may not be true. You want true odds? Go put money behind the line in craps. True odds. 50-50 once you can get to a point in putting money behind the line. I'm not going to blame DraftKings for making money on a product at all. I'm not going to blame the governor of Ohio going after prop bets at all. What I am going to go after is that if the governor thinks that the proper way to get the legislation through, the proper way to get rid of prop betting, that bridge sailed when you either allow or don't allow sports books, casinos. When you take the money that is generated by your very same constituents who are over 21 and not losing on prep betting, they're losing on the money line. They're losing on odds to win a Cy Young. They're losing on whatever it is they lose on. It is still not the responsibility other than what DraftKings does, where they have provisos and provisions. If you have a gambling problem, call this number. And I do a commercial for nothing personal. Hey, download DraftKings, the sport, the crown is yours, and bet $5, get 200 bonus bets instantly. Come on, just pick a player. You got this. Yeah, I do those reads. They're my partner. Am I oblivious to the fact that there are people who gamble too much? No. There's people who do way too many things too much. That's how it goes. That is normal. Excess. Gluttony. They've been around forever. It is not my job to be the decider of how people allocate their money. And if they allocate it wrong and they lose all their money and they steal money, they're going to go to prison. If they allocate it wrong and lose all their money and need to work a second job, they did it with their eyes wide open. What we're trying to protect against is what happens when your eyes are wide open but you're not allowed to see. That's what Governor DeWine is talking about. And what you're not allowed to see is any inside information, any fact that the side of the wager you're on definitionally can't win. No matter what, you can be the most brilliant analyzer. You can bet a little or a lot, your life savings or $1, and there are situations that you do not control. Hard stop. I am not convinced in any way that this will actually somehow pass. I believe that professional prop betting will stay, though we've heard from the commissioners, we've heard from the governors, but it is a huge source of revenue for a company that, time out, is a huge source of revenue for those leagues. Do you think that you can go tell your partner, please give me the same amount of money, but the way you make money, I don't want to be involved in it, so don't do that. Therefore, keep paying the same amount of money, but don't have the power to do the things that I don't want you to do? Do you realize that there are states that... I love this on Nothing Personal. I do. It's one of the favorite things about the show is when we get to talk about things that you think are third rail, that you think, oh my God, is he talking about a sponsor? Is he talking about gambling? How can this be? Is he going to get fired like Colbert? No, because how can you get fired for saying something that's not inflammatory? How can you get fired for saying something that's just simply accurate? It's not speculation. It's not reckless speculation. It's plain facts. There's another plain fact out there. Luka's on the Lakers. Are you used to that yet? When I saw him holding up his 77 jersey, Lakers gold, announcing his extension this weekend, I didn't say to myself, my God, what a great body. I did look at the Men's Health cover, and there must have been oil. It reminded me of how good like a Wendy's hamburger looks in commercial, and then when you go get the Wendy's burger, you're like, I still love the taste. I'm in like Flynn, but man, that doesn't look like the commercial. Or every time someone bakes something or does anything on TV, here's a shock, it's not actual food. They build like a model of stuff to make it look great on TV. I'm not saying that Luka didn't lose this amount of weight and become jacked since the offseason. I am saying, man, when did they lose, Coca? May, June, July, August. Am I right the Lakers have not been gone for 3 months? Coca, can you confirm to me the Lakers last played a game under 3 months ago? Because I bet you can. And if you can, you're able to get your body changed in 3 months of eating protein shakes and doing nothing else? Eating vegetables, not overeating, working with trainers? Give me a break. How many of us try to do that and like 3 months later we're like, wait a minute, these pants still don't fit. Wait a minute, April 30th? That's close enough, Coca. I mean, I'm not going to change the show over that. May 30th, June 30th, July 30th. Sorry, 3 months and 4 days. All right, we all happy now, so there's no correction needed. Luka had a total change in 3 months and 4 days. Sounds a little sus to me, but it was great having him there at the press conference looking fit, strong, and making Nico Harrison despondent beyond repair, even though he now has Cooper Flag. But that's not what interested me, because I think I know what happened, but that's not what interested me. Luka took 3 years, 165, and I remember doing the math with you on Nothing Personal and saying, wait a minute, hold on. Why did he do this? I thought he was going to wait a year so he could get an even bigger extension. There'd be no reason for him to sign right now. Remember when he left Dallas, he could have gotten $345 million over 5. Do you remember how much money that was? Now back with the Lakers, the way he did it, he's getting less money, but it's not like the Mikal Bridges with the Knicks, who took $6 million fewer dollars in order to create cap space. Give me a break. No, this is different. This is Luka taking a deal a year in advance so he can take another deal that crushes the Lakers. That's all this is. He took 165 now so he can get it over with, because what it means is he can opt out of the deal, not take the player option, and then be eligible because of his time with the team and his age to go 5 years, $400 million. Think about that math if you don't mind. Think about it, please. 5 years, $400 million. Quick, what does it mean? What does it mean? Yes, that means $80 million a year. That means about $1 million a game. We're headed there. We are getting there, baby. We're going to get to 9 figures per year soon. It's got to happen. So without you thinking that Luka was doing some sort of God's work because he talks about the family and how great it is to be a Laker and how excited he is, how this is great, the reason I took exception to it is, where was the mention of what this meant for you and your total money? And I'm not begrudging you the total money at all. As a matter of fact, it would be irresponsible of you not to do something to max out your career earnings. It means you've got a smart agent, you've got a smart accountant, and they're going to have you live on this $50 million a year for 3 years and then ratchet it up. I get all of that. But why do we have to talk around it? I don't see the reason. Why do we have to talk about the great teammates and the great team and how we just love it here and want to be a part of this? Everyone wants to be a part of this when they're making the most money. You make yourself a part of this. I would have been happier if he had just looked at the screen and said, listen, let me tell you the math. I'm taking 50 now. I'm going to get 80 later. Sorry, you'd all do the same thing. I just got to make sure I stay healthy, which I will, because if I miss 8, 10, 12, 14 games and I can't be all NBA, doesn't matter. If I can't win the MVP, doesn't matter. If my body breaks down, doesn't matter. Because unless I have some sort of permanent injury, I'm going to get the extension from the Lakers, because, wink, wink, I told them that this is the plan. They agreed to the plan, and they're now executing the plan. Do you think that the Buss family or Mark Walter, the new owner who's not really running the Lakers because he's busy not really running the Dodgers, you think that he sort of looked at the Luka signing and said, wow, thank you, Luka. That was great, because in 3 years we can just see you later. We can jettison you and move on to the next under 30 superstar. Nope, didn't work that way. This deal is done. Today's deal and tomorrow's deal. Luka had the power to walk into Mark Walter's office and say, you want me around? You want to have a post-LeBron situation where your $10 billion doesn't go right into the crapper? Then here's how we're going to do it. And then it was done. Did it not strike you how different it is of what Luka did versus what Micah Parsons can do versus what some baseball players can do? You can't go in and dictate what you're going to get in any other sport except the NBA. It is the most bizarre thing to me that somehow in the NBA cap there is this ability to control the owners and to get them to sign these deals and then next deals and have it all done in advance. And in other sports, they just look right at the player and say, hey, Micah, it's just business. It's nothing personal.